left, right.
Welcome to episode 214 of SipTalk. This episode is about nothing and everything, from American bathroom stalls to European bathroom stalls to American cars to vintage muscle cars. We do cover quite a bit today. So sit back, listen, enjoy. See you on the other end. This is SipTalk. Grab a drink and enjoy.
Press this button.
Cheers.
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 Your bar right behind you?
Yeah, it's true.
We'll give you a minute to pour yourself a drink. I know you've already had a drink.
No, you're already
We
live.
are-
I can see it.
We are now live. So let me address our audience. Welcome to Sip Talk. This is Sip Talk episode 214. My name is Justin DiGiulio, joining you from my basement in New Jersey. Today I am joined by James, the Bosnian Boswell, philosopher, philanderer, philanthropist, bartender, and accountant. Among other titles, he is drinking red wine. We are additionally joined by Rashad Galeb, out of his apartment on the Upper East Side in Manhattan.
No longer our silent partner.
Raj is usually our silent partner. Raj is usually behind the scenes. However, my two headphoned colleagues here are joining me in video. I'm happy to have them. Today, we're talking about nothing. Matter of fact, we're talking about fitting cars from the 1960s into car parking lot spaces of the 2000s. Raj believes that car spaces have shrunk. I don't actually believe that. But first,
maybe at a broader topic, like Europe is doing shit better than the United States.
Should we go all the way back to bathroom stalls? Because I recently read an article about how bathroom stalls in America, somebody defending bathroom stalls.
How can you defend the design of bathroom stalls in America? For those of you who haven't traveled, if you go to a bathroom in Europe, you will find that the bathroom stalls for privacy extend all the way down to the floor, and all the joints are sealed, like are flush. So like there's no gaps in the spacing between the different panels so that you can like accidentally peek a glance at someone taking a leak. Like you actually have perfect privacy in a European bathroom stall compared to American stalls where like the bottom of the floor is like to the bottom of the panel is like a foot, and there's like an inch gap between all the paneling and everything else. Like, who in their right mind would defend the design of American bathrooms? Give me the argument, please.
Well, hang on, but I will share with you. I will share with you the counter arguments against American versus European bathrooms. First things first, though, I need to pour my drink. Hang on. I'm just trying to get us live on the TikTok here.
I don't have anything to drink.
Well, take a minute, turn around.
Oh,
I'm seeing
you got a lot of drinks behind you, Raj.
Oh, there's a bar. Okay.
You got a bar.
I'm seeing like 20-something bottles behind you.
I'll help myself.
Including Luxardo. Make something with Luxardo.
That's right.
You have Luxardo behind you?
I do. What do you suggest, James, with Luxardo?
Hemingway Daiquiri.
Oh, you must be much closer. He's not gonna be able to do that right off the rip here.
If you got bottled grapefruit juice, you're in business. I assume you
do.
got rum.
I do.
You have grapefruit in your house?
I got grapefruit. I got rum. I get everything. Just tell me what to do.
Oh, so actually, you're in good shape to make a Hemingway Daiquiri. Surprisingly.
All right.
Do you have lime juice?
Wine juice?
Wine juice.
Lime juice. I have real lime.
You don't need lime juice for Hemingway Daiquiri, but like, do you have orange juice?
I have orange.
The basic recipe is going to be rum, Luxardo, and grapefruit juice. I find that can be a little bit harsh, so a little bit of orange juice will help smooth it out.
All right.
Look it up right now. Hold on.
On the note that we are not live on Instagram, we've been banned from Instagram. So unfortunately,
permanently.
Well, I thought we were only banned for a week. Last week we were banned. We were banned again this week. So look, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, I'll be drinking whiskey. This is a Kentucky whiskey, though. And this is Basil Hayden's. And this was a courtesy of Kareem Bouyani from my office. This was a birthday gift in October of last year. So I'm just shouting out Kareem. Want to thank him.
Well, that's a good bottle.
And it is a nice bottle. You know, I actually didn't want to open up anything nice because we're a little pre-St. Patrick's Day. Our initial topic of conversation for today's episode was going to be the history of St. Patrick, which I oddly feel like we actually did last year. James,
We might have, and also like
a Hemingway daiquiri.
Okay.
So you start this.
We'll be
we got
here.
you, Rush.
We'll watch you in the background making your Hemingway daiquiri. If you're just tuning in, this is a show where we have a few drinks and discuss, in today's case, nothing. In most days' cases, nothing that interesting as far as our listener is concerned.
Can I use my analogy from before?
Go ahead.
Like going into this episode, we were talking about whether or not we had a topic, and
Orange
I said, you wanted just a splash of that, like probably about grapefruit juice. Do like an ounce and a half of rum and an ounce of Luxardo.
What else?
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah, like an ounce and a half of rum, an ounce of Luxardo.
Maraschino cherries?
What?
Maraschino.
That's not a bad idea. Like,
That's what it says on the recipe. It says maraschino.
Yeah, then if you've got the cherries, then throw the cherries into it.
Okay. So, James, you were saying prior.
In
the background here.
Yeah. Like, what do we have ideas for topics? And I said, if you think about this like a jigsaw puzzle, we've got some of the corner pieces and like a couple pieces in the middle, but we also lost the box, so we don't even know what we're trying to build.
And that's really what today's episode feels like. I don't know what we're going into it, but I feel like actually having a nice live conversation where I have to watch what I say rather than a private conversation where I can say whatever I want. So Rosh has got a circular ice cube. Rosh, I don't think you want to add that to the glass yet. Wait, I would mix the drink.
No, you put ice first.
Okay.
If he's gonna you don't want to put ice. You don't want to be bombing a cocktail with ice when you've got the liquid in there first. The ice is just gonna splash it all out. Like that's.
So I got nice round ice.
Yeah,
right there.
ice first, and then like if you've got a mixing glass, then you can stir all your ingredients together that way.
All right. So again, we have.
What are you talking about? What's the?
You have to be watching this.
I would do an ounce and a half of rum and an ounce of Luxardo.
You really know what's going on right now.
Rum, yes,
right?
rum.
Okay. But
I mean, let me look at the actual recipe because I should.
Right now,
Jamaican.
guys, just for the record, this conversation that you have is not very conducive to anyone who's listening. So what we have going on right now is we have Rosh in the background trying to make a complicated, unpopular cocktail that was the genesis for the modern day daiquiri. Modern day daiquiri is a blended, very sweet and sugary drink that tastes like you would expect a blended, sweet, sugary drink. However, the original Hemingway daiquiri is a grapefruit rum drink. And James, you want to give me
Well, first of all, the Hemingway, like the original daiquiri, like the Hemingway daiquiri is just a version of it that he created. But the actual recipe for a daiquiri goes back much farther. And like the original daiquiri is just lime juice, rum, and like some sugar.
Okay. So
Not blend or anything else. Just shake that up over rocks. Like I find to use it simple syrup is better, but yeah, it's just rum, lime, sugar.
So the Hemingway daiquiri. So most daiquiri is going to be like a strawberry daiquiri.
Yeah, that's cruise ship tourist bartending.
Exactly. So the Hemingway daiquiri, a little bit deeper, very good daiquiri, not as sweet as you might expect.
Do a half.
Half?
Yeah.
Hemingway daiquiri is not as sweet as a traditional daiquiri, although I believe Hemingway had diabetes, so probably a good thing. All right, James.
Probably from all the alcohol.
Probably from all the alcohol. So, James, you want to recap the ingredients on a Hemingway daiquiri for anyone who's listening to us?
And
so try to recreate it. Of course, they'd be better off Googling it.
Grapefruit juice, rum, Luxardo, lime. And the Luxardo takes place of the simple syrup because Luxardo is very sweet.
Luxardo is very sweet. I put a few drops. I was trying to try an old fashioned with instead of
just a splash, not a lot.
Instead of muddling a sugar cube with some bitters, I put just a splash of Luxardo, and it was still too sweet for me. And I'm not a big fan of the sugar, anyways, in an old fashioned.
You should try it with a little bit of triple sec.
No,
I'm talking to Justin.
Not you, Rush, not you.
Although, actually, like triple sec in that drink wouldn't be bad.
No, I mean, not
like a splash.
I think it would be better foregone.
But try it before the triple sec, because like a lot of times I'll add triple sec to kind of fix a drink.
So let's get back to our public conversation about cars. Is that good, Rush?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Oh, it is good.
All right.
Whenever I go to a restaurant with my brother, I order a Hemingway daiquiri.
Here's
partially
guys.
Because I like the drink, largely because I know it royally pisses him off.
Your brother?
Yeah, he hates it when I order that drink for some reason.
So let's go back just a minute. I'd be pissed if I was the bartender. Let's go back to the.
I wanted to see
it's an easy drink to make. It's just you have to have the ingredients.
You have to know. Well, yeah, you have to have the ingredients, which most bars do, but you also have to know. So my question is, where were we about 14 minutes ago when we were discussing cars, my friends? Let's get back to cars.
Well, we got the drinking done, so now it's time to drive.
So, Rosh, you were mentioning something about the size of cars, and James, you were mentioning something about the fact that Ford does not have a mid-size sedan in production right now.
For the last 3 years or so, Ford, I feel it was about 3 years ago, Ford announced, we're done making cars. We only make SUVs and trucks now. They just said the other parts of the market, like Honda and Mazda, they deal with cars. We're sick of competing with them, like Honda and Toyota. So you know what? We're just not going to compete with cars anymore. People like SUVs, so that's what we're going to make. And GM is basically doing the same thing now.
I'm having trouble actually. I just clicked new Ford vehicles, the shop.ford.com vehicles/new, and it's not loading for me. So I don't know what's going on with their website, but apparently they don't want anybody to be buying new Ford vehicles.
Well, I mean, we got into the car talk because we started off talking about Europe, and my argument that Europe just does things better than we do, and about city design, and how in the United States we still design our cities completely around cars.
Right, but they don't have muscle cars.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do, but it's important. I mean, in America, you can have a 1970
Europe,
Chevy Chevelle S 454.
It's just different. Like you've got Ferrari, you've got Lamborghini, you've got Aston Martin, you've got Jaguar.
Those are all European cars. James has although Jaguar is owned by Ford now.
And you got Koenigsegg.
So actually, you're right.
McLaren.
I don't see any mid-sized cars except for, and this is wow, I'm actually blown away. I did not believe you on this, except for the Mustang, which Mustang now has a new line. They have a electrified Mustang SUV.
Oh yeah, they said that they were keeping the Mustang, but that's like the Mustang's not a mid-sized car. The Mustang's a sports car.
The Mustang's a cool looking car. It's just I'm just not. I don't know. I like how they returned to the classic styling of the Mustang, but
67's classic.
Well, they
big and heavy.
The new versions of the Mustang pay homage to the past versions of the Mustang. So their tail lights and their headlights and some of the body design, while the vehicle looks completely different, it does pay homage and it looks similar. Now, if you take the Corvette, there is nothing about today's Corvette that looks like the Corvette of 10 years ago. And that Corvette looks nothing like the Corvette of 10 years before then, which also looks nothing like the Corvette of 10 years before then, which, I love the Stingray Corvettes. I love the
1974.
I mean, some of the Corvettes are really cool, but the new ones just look like wannabe Lotus, Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren type vehicles. And they've just lost touch with their roots. So to me, unfortunately with the Corvette is they're just trying to be everyone else and they're not trying to be themselves.
Well, I'll tell you what, good luck trying to get a 2023 Corvette at MSRP.
Why is there a huge demand on them?
They're extremely popular, and for good reason. They're really like, for the price, it's probably the best performance car you can buy. Like, you're getting probably
Are you
two to
buying a
three
Corvette?
hundred thousand dollar European car performance at a $70,000 to $80,000 MSRP.
Sure, but you're just buying. The thing is, it's like dating someone just because they're hot or something along those lines.
I'm not sure people buy a Corvette because they
What?
performance. They buy a Corvette because the history.
But no, I don't.
No, what I'm saying is that
I don't think they're buying them for the depth of the Corvette. They're buying them just for the sex appeal, just for the speed, just for the high end performance, and they're not interested in the history of the Corvette versus the Mustang or a Porsche or even Lamborghini has some lineage there. Whereas when you buy the Corvette, the lineage is fully unlinked. There's nothing tying you back 40, 60, 70 years ago.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question about philosophy, though, because you can look at the Mustang or like the Challenger and say, like, these things were popular 50 years ago, so we're going to kind of make something that has a design similar to that. Or you could say, you know what, like, this vehicle line continually evolves, and we're not going to copy off of ideas in the past. We're going to come up with something new every 5 or 6 years. And
But
which one's right?
what
And
about
the answer is
building?
neither. Like, it's just
What
what do you want
about
to do?
But what about, rather than reinventing from scratch, what about building off of? Because if you're going to reinvent from scratch, you need to the car needs to have a different namesake.
Well,
It can bear the
you can
same.
see an
It can bear the
evolution,
same.
because if you look at like the C8 versus the C7 and the Corvettes, there's similarities between the two.
Okay, now tie that back to the Stingray.
Well, and you can go back, like the C6 there's some carryover from the C6 to the C7, and you can go 65432, and you can see that there's you can see that it's the same car, and
Let me
every time they're
let me ask,
changing,
let
and
me
when
ask
you
you a
look 8
question.
evolutions
You
down,
guys,
it's going to look completely different.
you
Let
guys
me
do
ask you.
realize that we're veering off topic right now.
We don't
Well,
have
we do.
this is an
What
episode of
topic?
We'll get back to the bathroom stalls in just a minute. So let me ask you a question. If we were to juxtapose an image of you, a headshot, your LinkedIn image of you, next to your great grandfather's portrait, would there be some similarities? And could people say, "Oh, wow, they're related"?
I have no idea.
Okay. My guess is in most people's cases, they could. Now, I would like to be able to do that with cars. You can do that with the 911. You can do that with the Mustang. You can do that with the Charger. I mean, there's a lot of other
The
cars.
Challenger, not so much the Charger.
Well, again, but you look at some of the lines in the taillights and the headlights and the overall lines of the car. There's some similarities. Now, what Raj was talking about was the 50s and 60s and the giant cars with the wings and the fins,
Oh, they're boats with wheels.
which they literally were boats with wheels.
And they were super solid, not the papier mache cardboard cars that
You should
that you
watch
see
some
today.
videos of crash test comparisons where they take like a 1960s car and crash it into like a 2010 car, and I'll tell you which car comes out better.
Well, generally, the older cars come out more intact, but the drivers of the new cars, where there are crumple zones, come out in much better shape because the newer cars are built to crumple and take some of the impact. Whereas
I don't even know if the older cars come out more intact, because you can see like crazy deformation in the old cars.
Well, the frames get bent, and I mean, it's basically like crashing a brick into
an aluminum can.
Yeah, I mean, the can's going to take some real deformation, but the brick may lose a quarter of it.
Yeah,
when you're riding in one, the question is, would you rather ride along a tin can or a brick if you were affixed to it?
I'm talking about,
even if the brake doesn't have a seatbelt.
I'm saying that the 60s cars are the ones that are the tin can. Like, they might be built out of heavy material, but the thing is, there's no reinforcements. And so if you look at like the frame design of modern cars, it's all about being able to take the energy of that impact and try and distribute it as much as you can across the entire car. And so, like, if you might have damage to like the rear quarter panel in a front end collision on a new car because it finds a way to shunt that energy to other parts of the car. Whereas like if you have a front end collision with like, I don't know, a 60s Chevelle or something, like the back of the car is going to be completely fine, but the front is going to be utterly destroyed. And also, if you look at like the driver cabin or something, like the steering wheel is going to be like beheading the driver.
It's true. Or it was the Ford. If it was the Ford Pinto or whatever Fight Club was based off of.
Well, the Ford Pinto had the gas tank right in the back.
The Ford Pinto?
Yeah. So the gas tank being in the back of the car, and when the car was in a collision, the car basically lit on fire.
Reliably.
Yeah, like it was. James is right. Reliably, you got in even a heavy fender bender, and the car basically exploded.
Yeah, you get rear-ended at like 15 miles an hour. Like the Pinto has a pretty good chance of going up in flames.
So my question was, Raj, what were you talking about 25 minutes ago when it came to the parking spaces?
I think back in the days, let's just say a Cadillac Eldorado will take 2 parking spaces today. Right? Cars are slightly smaller. Yes, there's a lot more SUVs than family, but there's a lot more real estate to be taken back in the days.
I don't necessarily think if you take one of the giant boat cars of the past with the fins.
Yeah, like the Monte Carlos.
Yeah, but I think you'd be surprised if you were to compare a 1965 Monte Carlo to a 2008 Monte Carlo. I'll bet you they would be about the same size. There's something about the size of new cars.
No. Look at the Chevy Impala. Look at everything is different. Even though it's supposed to be a full-size car, it has nothing to do with the sizes from book, and even the cubic the cubic inch is different.
Okay, so looking for the 1968 model year, the Monte Carlo was 210 inches long. Let's compare that with a car, like an average car today, or even we'll go with a 2015
Go
Dodge
for the largest car today. Go for like
Dodge Challenger.
Yes.
Dimensions 198, so almost a foot shorter.
Wait, the new one or the old one for shorter?
The 2015 Dodge Challenger is 198 inches long.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Monte Carlo was 210, so like a foot shorter.
Oh,
now you're talking about one of the largest
new one is
cars.
A foot shorter, and the Dodge Challenger is a pretty long car.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're talking about a foot less. But you know what? 2015 Ford. We'll go with the 2020 Ford F-150 dimensions, and we get 209. So almost dead on what like the 60s or 70s Monte Carlo was. Like 3 inches isn't going to make much of a difference here.
Well, I'll tell you, the original Mini next to the new Mini Cooper, the original Mini is much smaller.
Oh yeah.
Same thing with any of the 911 lineup.
It's probably very similar to the Fiat 500 in Italy.
Well, yeah.
Honda Accord clocks in at 192.
The Cinquecento.
But yeah, like I think you're seeing more standardization in terms of car dimensions today, but also I feel this is probably like 2 months ago, one of you sent a picture of the various crossovers from like 20 different manufacturers, and how like it was almost impossible to tell which car was which. Like which car was a Mercedes, which was an Audi, which was a Mazda, which was a Ford, because they all had the same lines.
Yes,
I've got to share with you this, James. I don't know if you can see it. I think I sent it to Raj. This is the. Is it clear enough to read here?
I can't read it, but
how about now?
Mazda CX-3.
Mazda CX-3 versus the Ferrari SUV versus the Mazda CX-3 SUV, and they look nearly identical.
Mm-hmm.
The color.
Well, you've got that shape of car you're seeing so much today, and I hate it.
Yeah, it's I don't. It's a very Japanesey influenced design, which is like Jeep. Jeep was known for having circular or rectangular headlights. Now they are just kind of lines. The headlights, along with the taillights, are just lines. Which, to me, how's this episode fully about cars? Actually, a half hour in.
I know. It just merged into. I think we
Well,
gotta
since
drop
we
a
didn't
lot
have
of
a
ladies.
topic, all three of us are passionate about cars, so that's what it became.
Well,
Okay,
but have you seen the new Jeeps?
yes.
Yeah, they do not have circular or rectangular headlights. They have just dashes that are LED dashes, which to me is wild. Raj, how's that?
The drink is great, but speaking about Jeep, the 2023 Jeep Wagoneer, I'm all for it.
Is that the German version, the Wagoneer?
How do you call it? How do you say it?
Well, here in the United States,
Wagoneer.
Wagoneer,
Yes,
yeah.
you got it.
Wagoneer. Okay, I got it.
Slightly less exotic than
I
you
mean, I think it's in the $100,000 or something like that.
That's stupid.
very expensive. We get a lot of them out here in New Jersey.
Maybe a little bit less, but have you
So-
seen the interior?
Apparently, the build quality in them is complete dog shit.
Well, that was always my experience with the Jeep Wrangler. That just everything you touched broke.
Apparently, it's really bad. I can try and do the research to show, like, because someone was talking about like working in the factory where they like put them together, and like, yeah, the Wagoneers are expensive, but they are held together with like twist ties and duct tape.
No way.
It's just there's so
Like,
many.
it's just
plastics.
very shoddily built.
And also, when even when you're using plastic, just like with metal, there are varying degrees of hardness. So I'll tell you, having moved from an apartment in Manhattan where you have just very limited closet space, Rosh, to moving to a home in New Jersey where you have a lot more space and there's work to be done. So I had to start buying tools. And of course, I'm trying to do most of the work myself, which means every new job requires new tools, right? So buying tools, and depending on the job, you try to start out cheap. So rather than buying the high-end tools, especially depending on the job, if it's kind of a once-over job, you're going to aim to do the cheaper tools, right? Like I'm not using this tool day in and day out as a professional contractor. I'm using it for one job and then moving on. But I can tell you something from having bought cheap tools when it comes to the hardness of metals. The cheap tools, the Harbor Freight tools, Harbor Freight's a store that I love, by the way. They have fucking everything you can imagine under the sun, but the quality of those tools is about as low as it gets. You buy a wrench set, and if you're really torquing down on those wrenches, they will strip out, even if you are like right onto that bolt. The hardness of the metal is very weak, and same thing goes for plastic. The hardness of plastic comes along a spectrum. So in a car, when you were designing a car and building a car and sourcing the parts, if you are choosing cheaper parts with a lesser hardness, there is more likeliness that the parts are going to break. And the everyday parts that you use over and over again, like the door handle or the shift knob or the whatever else, I can tell you when it came to driving a Jeep, going from a 90s Volvo to a late 90s Jeep, right? Actually, 1990 Volvo to a 1998 Jeep. Now, obviously, this is a couple of decades ago. I could feel the build quality of the Jeep was just totally inferior. And then, of course, driving the Jeep like crazy, it just every time I did something with the Jeep, something else broke. James, do you remember what that Jeep looked like when I finally got rid of it?
Yeah, I was there.
There was no first gear. Okay. So you had to start in second gear. You didn't start the car with a key.
Started with a screwdriver.
Started with a screwdriver.
You still needed to put the key in though to unlock the wheel.
Yeah, because the wheel won't turn unless the key is in the.
So in theory, you could start this thing, get it in gear, and only be able to drive with the steering wheel with a range of this.
The sound is, remember my old Explorer? No, was it an Explorer that I had in 19?
It was a
Was it
Bronco
a ni-
or Explorer?
No, I think it was an Explorer in 92. Remember when I was holding the door with my hand
Yeah.
as I was driving?
Well, I also remember you totally screwed the rear diff up by running 2 different size tires for like thousands of miles, so that the entire rear diff was basically preloaded the entire time you were driving.
So I
And
had 2 different size tires on the car, and basically, just imagine if you have a small wheel here and a large wheel here, and you roll them forward, the small wheel is going to have to spin more often than the large wheel, right? Now, if they are tied, right? If they're tied together, that
you end up turning, you go in a circle because one wheel goes farther than the other. So you'll have,
the 2 wheels are tied together with the axle, and the meeting point is the differential.
right.
And the differential is supposed to account for a difference, not specifically in size, but when you're turning. Because when you're turning, just think if you turn, the inside wheel doesn't really move as much as the outside wheel. Obviously,
Yeah, without a differential, the inside wheel will lock up.
yeah, if you're looking at me, one of my hands that's turning is not moving, right? The other hand that's on the outside is moving more. So the differential is supposed to account for that difference. However, when you run a smaller tire alongside a larger tire for thousands of miles, it really fucks with the differential. So what happened was, towards the end of the life of this Jeep, the last 20,000 miles or so, the pressure would build up in the differential. I don't know exactly how this works.
There's
And
gear oil in there.
and you would feel the car starting to pull, and then just pop back into place.
It
And
wasn't
then-
severe, but like as you're driving, you have to fight the wheel
And
a
then the
little
car
bit
would just
more and a
pull.
little bit more.
pull, but very slight, and then just pop back into gear.
And
And
it's
then it
just
would pull,
operate on like an
and
8
pull,
to 10 second cycle.
and pull, and then pop back into gear. It was the weirdest thing, but also this only happened after the car had been driven for a while. So if the engine was cold, the differential was cold, the wheels were cold, you could drive for 40 minutes and you wouldn't feel this. However, once you've been in the car, you've been up to highway speeds, the car would start to pop.
I also remember, so you know how when your gas tank is full, the pump handle will pop out to let you know that the gas tank is full.
Yes.
So this Jeep, it didn't matter if the tank was bone dry. You could only fill it up in like pee squirts. Like you'd squeeze the handle and it would pop back on you.
So
And you'd register 0.05 gallons.
yeah, so the pumps have an automatic shut off based off the pressure coming from inside the gas tank. This thing just basically gave off whatever pressure said that the gas tank was completely full all the time.
So if you had to fill this thing up all 15 gallons or 18 gallons or whatever of it, this would involve several hundred clicks of the pump.
Click, click, click.
And it would take you like 20 minutes. And you're standing there and people hear that sound and can feel the vibration as it goes through the pump. So like you're like "Gum, gum," and everyone looks, and then like you just keep on doing this. They're like, this guy's just gonna end up sending fuel all over the floor. We're like, no, it's all going into the tank.
We're only a quarter full. That click, by the way, is like what the gas station attendants in New Jersey rely on to know when your car is done.
Right. So yeah, if you bring it to a gas station in New Jersey, you're gonna get about a thimbleful worth of gas.
So, build quality when it comes to cars is well, I feel like it's going. I remember getting in a
Up to the 90s, they were like, I always been partial to the Land Rover Defender specifically, anywhere between 1992 to 94. I don't know what type of Defender they're building today. I've seen a lot of ads. I'm curious if they honor historically the sturdiness of the
No, they
Defender.
don't.
But
I've
sure.
driven. I back when I worked in hotels, I would valet cars sometimes, and I drove some of the newer Land Rovers, and I thought that they were all plastic.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I remember getting in a Hummer H3, and the shift knob, the shifter, the gear selector being plastic, and just thinking like, I thought these were cars that the Army used.
The H1,
The H1, of course.
although the H1 was pretty crappy too. There was a saying in the Army about H1s: if it's leaking oil, it means it has oil.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
I see James drinking. What are you drinking, Justin?
I am drinking this Basil Hayden's whiskey here.
Okay. Because we're 2 hours and 40 minutes from St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, I got to share this one since we're like I'm off topic, but funny Army things.
Okay.
So guys are in training for like their first paratrooping like training. So like you're gonna jump out of the plane, and this is how to operate your parachute and all that kind of stuff, right? And so the Army parachutes work differently than like if you're going skydiving, where like the skydiving parachute, like you actually have to pull the cord to deploy the chute. When you're paratrooping, there's a little mechanism where like you're attached to the airplane, and as you jump off, it pulls a cord, so the chute automatically opens for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got all the cadets that are sitting through listening about like how to operate the parachute and everything else, and you got the drill sergeant that's giving the talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how if your chute doesn't deploy when you first jump out of the plane, how to deploy the emergency chute, because all parachutes have an emergency chute. So he goes through that process, and then one of the cadets says, well, what happens if your primary chute doesn't deploy, and then I pull the handle for my emergency chute, and that also doesn't deploy? The drill sergeant says, well, you got the rest of your life to fix it.
That's
very good.
That is funny. All right, we got to talk about bathrooms. We got to talk about shitters.
Why?
Well,
Why?
I think that's an important topic today.
All right, so who in their right mind is defending the design of American bathrooms over European bathrooms?
All right.
Okay.
So,
are we talking about bidet, or are we talking about?
No, we're just talking about the stalls, about how the stalls in Europe are flush, that you actually have privacy. You can't see into them.
So let's just describe a European bathroom versus American bathroom. So American bathroom, you have a stall. There's a 18-inch space from the floor to the bottom of the door. Between the door and where it meets whatever divider, there's a half-inch, quarter-inch gap, which means people outside the bathroom can see in, people inside sitting on the toilet can see out. You can hear everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
really acoustic.
Now they're
not really soundproof, regardless.
Now the European bathrooms are separate stalls where you have a door that goes floor to ceiling. We see this a lot, I feel like, in New York City. You go to a bathroom, and oftentimes there's kind of a communal sink, but each toilet has its own private space, which I also think a lot of times is funny because whatever's going on inside that individual toilet, you still got to take your dirty hands and open and close the door. So,
well, that's what the sink's for.
But the sink is communal outside of the room, so you're not the doorknob is being soiled irregardless. Just for the record, I don't really participate in the soaping and the do your ABCs washing of the hands. All I do is turn on the faucet, dip my hands in the water, and do this kind of theatrical blah, 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 and then I dry my hands.
And how do you flush the toilet? By hitting it with a foot?
No, I'm more of a urinal guy. I touch the toilet. I'm not really worried about germs.
I'm washing my hands afterwards. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really washing my hands, but I rinse them just again for the theater of it all. So the argument,
rinsing them does most of the work, anyways. Though,
what's the difference? Just water, no soap.
No, I'm not much of a latherer. I'm all for the germs. During the entire pandemic, I never used Purell or hand sanitizer once, except for when I was in Mexico, and the guy we were getting a ride from the airport to the I don't know if it was a resort or a hotel. It was kind of like a tree house. We were getting a ride to the tree house from the airport, and the guy told us in order to get in the car, you need to clean your hands. And then, of course, we got in the car, and he stopped at a shop, and we all got beer, and he told us we had to wear masks also. So you have to use hand sanitizer, and you must be wearing a mask to get in the car, right? And then 10 minutes into the car ride, we stopped at a store and we picked up, I don't know, 8 beers, and we each drank beer in the car with our masks off. So again, like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Get in the car unless you're wearing a mask, but you can get in the
This
car.
is not very coordinated.
It doesn't make any sense.
This is not very well
So,
coordinated.
but that was the only time during the pandemic that I actually used hand sanitizer. Let me get back to the arguments for, and these are very, I'm building it up way more than the argument's worth, but the argument for the American style toilets, the American style public bathrooms. And one, the benefit of the space underneath is you can see if that toilet is occupied. Right?
Yeah, but that's an easy thing to work around.
Well, nobody wants to be mid shit or mid sat down piss, and somebody knocks on the door and they have to say, "Oh, sorry."
No, what you do is you have those ones that, like, when the sliding lock, it like just has like a green or a red bar on the
James,
outside.
are you from the future?
Yes.
But this is a brilliant idea.
You can also see if somebody
I mean,
collapsed.
we've seen
and
this
on the
like,
floor because they're on drugs.
The airplane bathrooms have had this technology for decades.
So
When you slide the lock, the outside of the door.
I am just sharing with you the arguments for the American style bathrooms. So that was an argument for the space underneath and the space in between. Argument number 2, should someone have passed out or has had a seizure? I think, Raj, this is kind of what you were just getting at, or had a drug overdose, and they're on the floor in the stall. You can see that. A, you can get in to try to help them. B, and you can pull their body out underneath the door. C, without having to unlock it. Okay. Part number 3, as to why American bathrooms, and again, these aren't my arguments, these are just the arguments, as to why, and I also disagree with these. I think the greater good is the European bathroom. Argument number 3 is that there is space so that you could open the lock if needed from the outside, if you were really desperate to do so.
I struggle to find a situation in which that would be necessary.
I mean, again, I agree with you.
Because if you're dealing with like a true emergency, then that's when you call someone on staff that has the key to it or whatever.
Providing that they have the keys to it.
Or if it's that big of an emergency, you kick the door in.
Well, then
Which, by the way, is one thing that I want to do at least once in my life. Like,
is kicking a public bathroom stall door.
Not just any door. Like, the idea of, like, I can't think of a better way to make an entrance into a room than to start off by just going, bam, I'm here.
All right, so Justin, next time we are in Charleston, we know what to do. We're going to take James to the nearest restaurant or bar that have that type of stall, and we're going to videotape him kicking off the door.
Maybe I don't want to have to pay to replace it.
By the way, guys, the expression videotaping.
I have 3.
Why can't we just find an equivalent that is a little bit more?
Just for the record, Rosh has 12 tins of actual film in his home refrigerator. So, but what I was saying was, we could.
Why does it need to be refrigerated?
So it doesn't catch on fire.
Yes.
Rosh has, because it's very flammable.
I have my 35 millimeters movies.
Was it like nitrocellulose?
Yes, it's a technology that you have to preserve it in ice. I mean, not in ice, in cold.
In cool temperatures. So we could actually get you busting down the door with your foot, James, and use that as our new intro to SipTalk podcast, which we are in great need, because the current intro is very DiGiulio groupy.
What an intro!
Yeah, so we
that.
We got some real work to do, but next time, James, you're up here, maybe Rash and I.
That's right.
And you got a door frame that you don't particularly care for.
Well,
I
we'll be
replaced
prepared. We'll be prepared to compensate the damage to whoever owns the establishment.
So I want to talk more about
Okay.
European toilets. I want to talk more about European toilets versus American toilets. And another one is the flushing mechanism in American toilets versus a flushing mechanism in European toilets. Now, if you've had eyeballs and a bowel system for the last decade, you will have noticed that American toilets have been adapting. However, prior to about a decade ago, there is a single flush feature, a single knob that you must turn, a single handle that you must.
Are you talking about like the half versus the full flush?
But typically, it's just one little handle on the side of the toilet tank that you must push. In Europe, there are two options, and one allows you to use half a tank of water, which is generally just piss, and the other is to use the full tank of water, which is whatever's in the bowl must ultimately be flushed down the drain.
Number 2.
We got evidence to dispose of.
No risks taken, and that's the double flush. So in the U.S., we really only have one flush, which wastes a lot of water. And if anyone knows anything about public water, it's in much shorter supply than you imagine. And there's actually, funny thing is about public water supplies is we actually have no plan or like usage plan at all. We just kind of use them as never-ending supplies, which is why a lot of the Midwest and even
California is doing better now.
Well, why?
Because they've gotten a crap load of rain.
Okay, fair enough. But why the Midwest and the far West are doing so poor with water is that they actually don't really have a plan for distributary.
Well, no, like the Colorado River does have a plan. The problem is that like the allocations add up to like more than 100%.
Well, that's the issue. Is we just continue to take from the distributaries of whatever watershed there is, and we don't actually measure the usage, and it's just
it's like, so let's say that the total flow of the Colorado River is 100. So like going for all the states, like state one's like, I'll take 30. Okay, cool. I'll take 25. Cool. All right, I'll take 30. And like when you add up all the states and allocations, like, all right, this seems fair. And you're like, we're at 115. All right, cool.
Shit's gonna dry up pretty soon. So that is one of the issues with the.
Well, maybe it's because we've got like this entire system where we decide that we're going to farm alfalfa in Arizona.
Well, I mean, also with almond production, and the thing is, we're spending so much, we're allocating so much water for kind of bullshit farming. I haven't had alfalfa in a decade, probably 12 years.
Nobody eats alfalfa. Alfalfa is a feed crop for livestock. And the thing is, alfalfa requires an insane amount of water. Not as much as almonds, but at least people eat almonds. But people don't even eat alfalfa.
But not that many people eat almonds. And now that we're producing almond milk and dropping the almond waste because nobody's eating almond peanut butter.
I like calling it.
We're producing almond milk.
I like calling it nut milk.
Nut milk. We're producing all these alternatives because there's an entire generation that is absolutely allergic to nuts.
Guys, so
that could be another topic.
We've covered some bullshit about cars. We've covered
and toilets.
We've covered bullshit about bathrooms. What else?
I'm curious to see how you're going to label this episode.
Well, right now, our current topic is an episode about nothing. However, I wanted to keep the conversation going. We were having a nice conversation. I figured we'd bring it up.
So you're about to change conversation for the next
214. There is no topic.
Not even 12 minutes, 13 minutes.
We did have an episode called The Liminality of Life or something along those lines, where we were just kind of talking about how life is changing, but we can't put our finger on what's changing.
No, I was talking about like liminal art.
We're talking about liminal. We're talking about art. We're talking about art.
Primarily movies, because that's the easiest way to spot it.
Okay. What do you want to talk about? What type of art?
Liminal.
Liminal?
Yeah.
Can you develop a little bit better?
You have to listen to the episode, right?
Yeah.
We have a whole. It's episode 208, I think.
Liminal.
So,
yeah, or just like Google, Roch, just Google liminal space.
Liminal space.
that's kind of Schrodinger-like, right?
No.
No?
What is a liminal space? Liminal space refers to the place a person is in during a transitional period. It's a gap and can be physically, like a doorway, emotional, like a divorce, or metaphorical, like a decision.
That's but look at images of liminal spaces.
I can see that. I can see that. Those are
It's kind of like you're on the precipice of. So when I said Schrodinger,
it feels like a very long hallway.
Schrodinger is not exactly the same idea. Schrodinger means you're both simultaneously and also simultaneously neither, to whatever degree.
Well, that's you're describing superposition.
Yeah, which is what the basis of Schrodinger's cat is.
Well, Schrodinger's cat was designed as an allegory as to why superposition makes no sense.
Good Lord. I am looking at a space in a hotel, and it's a very long hallway. That carpet is too much carpet right there. It's way too much carpet. It's a sea of carpet.
Gosh,
right
are you
there.
high?
No. Hemingway.
That's one drink.
So
Just one drink.
Josh had a couple of drinks before.
Yeah, I had a drink with Justin before
we went
we.
home. So we
Yeah.
we didn't have an Irish beer, but we did have a matcha Japanese beer, which also had.
We had a matcha Japanese green. What is
Well,
it?
Japan and Ireland have always been
IPA?
close allies, so close enough.
Yeah.
I don't know ever of.
And we had a shot of Jameson.
I don't know ever of Japan bombing Ireland. Actually, you know what? He was like, "Oh, I can't give you a shot, but I can give you a glass of Jameson." And
Yeah, I never understood
he
that.
gave us half a glass of
Why
Jameson.
would he do that?
Probably
He didn't give
city
us a
liquor
shot.
laws or something.
He didn't give us a shot. This is a very upscale Chinese restaurant. It wasn't like a General Tso, sesame chicken, sweet and sour, lo mein type Chinese place. This is a very upscale Chinese place down the block, and they had Japanese beer, surprisingly, and this beer had matcha in it, also very Japanesey, and they also had Jameson behind the bar. So, you know, I wouldn't have thought anything of the Jameson, but they gave us this green beer, and I was like, oh, this isn't Irish enough, considering they're referencing Japan. So we need to do some real Irish.
It was very St. Patrick-ish.
So, just for the record, those of you who are listening to us or watching us, this episode could have been about the history of St. Patrick's, which I feel very confidently that we already did last year.
And also, you're welcome for us not doing it.
Yeah. All one of you who listened to that episode, thank you, Mom. We appreciate you being there for the St. Patrick's episode, but we needed to spice it up with an episode about absolutely nothing today. Is there anything else that you guys feel we should add in today's episode?
Yes.
You're watching us live on
2 hours and 20 minutes until St. Patrick's
You're watching us. We got our biggest audience yet of Facebook and YouTube viewers with 8 viewers right now.
I can't wait.
I'm really excited. So if you want to leave a comment, let us know what we should talk about, or just respond to your comment if you have a particular question.
Or come meet us tomorrow. It's Friday. We go to the office. We're gonna work. But then we're gonna.
Are you guys doing something for St. Patrick's Day?
Hell yeah!
What we're gonna do?
A dumb holiday.
What we're gonna do in the office is we're gonna grab a couple of cases of Guinness.
You have to understand that
get Killian's instead.
Justin's office is equipped with a bar. It's
get
like
Killian's instead. It's
like
such a better beer than Guinness.
I like Guinness, but I really like
Killian's.
Guinness is not a great beer. It's a great beer, but it's not.
No, it's not.
No. The thing is, it's a great beer because of, it's just the history of it. But it's like if you take a left-hand stout or basically any other stout, it's generally better than Guinness. But Killian's is good. There's Harp. There's Smithwick's. There's a lot of other Irish beers.
Yeah, but those Harp and Smithwick's are ciders.
So you're saying that tomorrow you're gonna drink mostly beers?
Yeah, well, the plan for the office tomorrow was we're going to grab a few cases of beer, maybe snag a couple bottles of Jameson behind the scenes.
I'm bringing my bourbon and ginger ale.
And then, I know that Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme, which are located inconveniently on our block,
Very inconveniently. And Chick-fil-A.
offer green.
Very, very inconveniently.
They offer green donuts, so I figured I'd just grab a dozen of donuts from each place, drop them on the table, and just go back to my little glass office cave.
You really don't want to do that because the sugar content.
I'm not. I'm aware the sugar content of donuts is 100%, but I wasn't planning to eat them. I was just going to drop them on the table and go back to my glass office cave and do some work.
I wonder what the Vegas odds are on Justin not eating any donuts tomorrow are.
It's gonna touch those donuts.
So both of you may be aware of a story where I worked at a rental car office, and one person a week used to have to sit in the corner behind a cubicle divider, and they had to do what's called callbacks. And we had this Microsoft DOS version system, black screen, green text on the screen, and you had to update the callbacks.
What was it called? Matrix. Matrix.
I don't remember what it was called, but
it was the Matrix.
What you had to do, it looked like the green screen from the Matrix. And
green on black background. Yes.
And what you had to do is you had to touch base with every person who rented a car over the last so many months, and then you had to call all the businesses in the area that used to rent cars, and you used to have to sell them on renting more cars, something along those lines. However, I was sat in the corner. Now, we had this woman who rented a car once a month or so, whenever she needed to go out of town to visit her son or daughter or family. And when she came back, she would bring us a couple dozen boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts. And there was a new Krispy Kreme about a mile down the street, which a mile by South Carolina terms is very close. Not very close by New York standards, but by
just down Savannah Highway.
Yeah, by South Carolina standards, it was next door. And what she would do is she'd grab a few dozen donuts, she'd drop them off at the branch. And you knew the time to buy those Krispy Kreme donuts was when that hot now sign was on. So there was one day she dropped off about 4 or 5 dozen Krispy Kreme donuts in 4 or 5 different boxes. And I was sat there in the back corner. Now, of course, for the corporate image, they didn't want to have these donuts sitting out on the floor of the office. So what they did was, now bear in mind, the office, by the way, was a trailer. It was a double wide trailer. Okay. But for corporate image sake, they didn't want these donuts on the main floor. So what they did was they stuck them back behind the cubicle divider where I was sat. Now, back in the day, I used to lift a lot of heavy weights and I used to eat a lot. I used to avoid carbohydrates generally. James remembers some stories about avoiding carbohydrates.
I remember one time Justin
let's get there in a second. We'll get there in a second. However, they placed a stack of 4 or 5 boxes of a dozen donuts each in front of me. They sat it next. Now, bear in mind, you could feel you could place your hand on those boxes and you could feel the heat coming from the boxes. Now, I was doomed. All right. I was in solitary confinement. It was me. There was no light. There was no sound. It was just me in darkness and some warmth.
And bad decisions.
And some warmth of the donut box.
How many were left?
I ate 2 dozen donuts in one sitting. And I felt so guilty on my lunch break, which was an hour lunch break. It took me 15 minutes to get 10 minutes to get home, 15 tops, and 10, 15 minutes to get back to the office. And I went home and I ran 2.5 miles or whatever that frontage road, whatever loop was. And I remember that run. And this run, I have never done a run before where I had so much sugar in my blood. And I was black. I was almost blacked out for this run. I was losing my sight, and I could just see white stars in my vision. And I hadn't.
What about the sugar rush? The sugar rush.
That was the sugar in my bloodstream.
It was the crash.
It was really fucking with me while I ran. And I did this run. I came back to the apartment. I took a shower. And I changed back into my work clothes, came back to the office. Somehow I took an ice cold shower, although ice cold water does not exist in South Carolina.
It does during the winter.
Yeah, so I took a luke cold shower, or a tepid, whatever you want to call it, shower, and I don't think luke cold is a thing. And we just got used to the comment that came through. I feel bad
Yeah.
for your toilet. I don't think the sugar rush does that much damage to the toilet. But either way,
I think 2 dozen donuts is going to do damage no matter what.
But the thing about Krispy Kreme donuts, they are unlike any other donut. The thing is, you take a bite and it just dissolves. It's like biting.
Yeah, they're very light and airy.
It's almost like biting into cotton candy. Like you take a giant chomp of cotton candy and it just kind of goes away, right? Like you could take a giant cloud of cotton candy and condense it into like a square inch, and then just eat it like a hard candy, and it would still be softer than hard candy.
It's gonna be a disaster tomorrow if you bring some Krispy Kreme. I'm telling you, I know this man. He's not gonna get his hands off of the Krispy Kreme.
I won't be bringing the Krispy Kremes tomorrow. That'll be.
You better not.
That'll be.
I remember how hard up you were for carbs. One time, I was at the apartment.
Let's
back.
Let's pause. Let's go back in time. All right, this is back in time.
Just so you know, we're just hitting the hour. Just so you know.
All right.
Well, this is the last story.
It's a quick story.
And also, we don't have to worry about getting kicked off Instagram, so what does it matter?
It doesn't matter that much. So back in the day, I had spent a few years working at a gym. I really thought it was important to go low carbs. I was working out a lot. I put on a lot of weight and a lot of muscle, but just a lot of weight overall. And my goal was to get more lean by avoiding having carbohydrates. So I was doing a little more cardio than I had been doing for the last couple of years, but I was also not having any carbohydrates. So no rice, no potatoes, generally avoiding vegetables and fruits entirely. And then one day I came home from work, James.
And I'm in the kitchen. Justin walks in. What are you cooking? It smells really, really good.
Oh my God! What are you cooking, James?
It's toast. I was just toasting some bread to make like a peanut butter, like peanut butter toast or something. But just the smell of toasting bread set him off.
I'm like, oh, you have company over? Are you building a feast for dinner?
No.
Yeah, James goes, oh, I just put some bread in the toaster.
Doesn't take that much.
Yeah,
doesn't take that much.
Dude, low carb is miserable.
So that's the thing about low carb diet is your body is starved for immediate energy, and I mean you're basically playing this rob Peter to pay Paul game, right? Like you're robbing your fat storages, right? But you're eating a lot more fat and a lot more calorie dense foods. So that's ultimately your body's trying to store that as fat, but your body needs the immediate generated calories, so it doesn't get that. So
I'm just talking from a palate perspective. Like I tried doing low carb for like 2 or 3 weeks, and that was as long as I could last because like so much low carb food, like you just get sick of it very quick.
Do you remember the time? So I did low carbs for a while, especially when I lived in South Carolina. Do you remember the time, James, that we went fishing and I bought a half gallon of ice cream in a container and I didn't have a spoon and I ate it with a credit card? We just went out fishing and we went to the store and I bought a half gallon of ice cream. It was my cheat day. And we're sitting on the dock and I'm like, all right, I'm about to eat this ice cream. And we went out there and I did not have a spoon. So I just had this
very resourceful.
I had this Moose Tracks ice cream and I ate. How are you going to dig into ice cream with no utensils? So I used a credit card to dig into my Moose Tracks ice cream. Moose Tracks, by the way, was an ice cream that I discovered from James. As James, the only person I know that can have several pints of ice cream in the freezer. I can't. Like you bring like a snack pack of Oreos into my house. They are gone within the next 3 hours. Now I might be like, oh, you should put that in the cabinet. I might walk into the other room, but I'm doing like some ninja shit where I jump out the bathroom window, come through the back door, snag those Oreos, and just disappear. And I walk back out of the bathroom and be like, yo, how about those Oreos? Can we open those up? Oh wait, what happened to them? They're not there anymore. So James has this ability to like stockpile junk food and I don't know how exactly it is. It's something in his depth of character, virtue.
No, it's just
is,
I don't like eating. But I do like.
You never know. Maybe
I
when you get the
remember.
munchies.
I mean, I've done this several times. But like when we first moved down to South Carolina, I was like truly on my own. There were a couple days where like I hadn't gone grocery shopping and I didn't have anything to eat, but there was ice cream in the fridge, so I had like ice cream for breakfast. Like I'm an adult.
What do you mean you've never had brownie mix for breakfast?
It's an all-time great line
The joys
because
of
there was
being an adult.
indignance. There was an air of disbelief.
What do you mean you've never had brownie mix for breakfast?
You mean to
James,
tell me you've
that
never
is-
had brownie mix for
James,
breakfast?
that's character defining right there.
Yeah, we know.
Although I did see something great about eating ice cream for breakfast, where there was like a news article where like some nutritionist like it turns out that having like ice cream for breakfast is actually like a nutritionally good move. And
It's
someone
very
says,
liberating.
I don't know how true or not this is. I could just tell you that the times in my life that I was eating ice cream for breakfast were not the best.
So I did a sales meeting this morning, and in similar lines to like the times of my lives, and I don't know how we got into this. I might have been we weren't talking about it. It was just me talking. It was me talking for 115 minutes nonstop, because that's how meetings go, right? It's me teaching a sales class, but somehow I talked about how bread and rice and potatoes are not bad for you. Right. And I said, the issue with potatoes is think about how the majority of the United States consumes potatoes. The majority of potatoes in the United States are consumed via potato chips and French fries. Now, that's unhealthy for you. Now, if you just ate a baked potato, you'd be full, right? You could eat a baked potato with a side of whatever meat you want. It could be 4 ounces of meat, but you eat a whole baked potato, you're full. Now, if you want to throw butter on top of it or sour cream or whatever else, you're getting whatever calories you're getting from that. But it's not deep fried, right? It's not turned into a potato chip. It's just a baked potato. Rice. Now, most people eat lots of rice, and what it does is it spikes your blood sugar. So rice doesn't so much contain that many calories, but because it spikes your blood sugar, what it does is it makes your body store the calories that come from whatever you eat rice with. So it's not the rice that's bad for you; it's whatever you're eating it with. And
Any guesses as to how many calories are in a single baked potato?
100,
One baked potato.
190 to 240, somewhere in that range.
160.
Okay, so I was low, but 160 calories in a baked potato, which will fill you up, is not that many calories.
That's a really small. You get 160 calories from a can of Pepsi.
Okay.
140.
Yeah. So now let me ask you a question. You drink a can of Pepsi, you full? No. You
Nope.
eat a potato? Are
You
you
eat
full?
an entire baked potato, you're at least getting towards full.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So next was rice, and then the next thing I said was bread. And I said, "What's the thing is for hundreds of years, people have eaten bread and rice, and they were not overweight or out of shape. The issue with, and I just gave you my defending rice, that it's not rice itself; it's what you eat it with."
Well, it's also how much you eat.
Which most people just kind of ate rice flavored with meat and flavored with vegetables. Now their main is the meat, right? And the side is 2 cups of rice, which 2 cups of rice is a lot of rice,
Yeah.
by the way. But now let's go to bread. Bread, by the way, is flour, yeast, and water. And you can add some salt for flavor. Now, of course, when you bring sugar into the equation, which anytime I go to the grocery store and I try to buy bread, I literally spend my entire time in the bread aisle trying to find bread without added sugar. All I want is flour, yeast, and water.
Why don't you find a bakery and just get like a baguette?
Well, that's usually what I end up doing, but still I worry about whatever the grocery store bakery is throwing in there.
Now, when you go to Paris, which is happening soon, right? You're about to go to Paris.
I am.
You're about to live the experience of having a daily baguette.
Well,
daily.
last time I was,
Maybe even 3 times a day.
last time I was in Paris, that's what we did. We bought a baguette, walked
Put it
around,
under your arm, and you keep moving. That's it.
and we just got some nice
And
cheese.
usually you break a little bit off of it
Yeah.
on your way home.
Well, yeah.
That baguette is not going to make it completely
That's-
all to your home.
There's yeah.
But those places are everywhere.
So, but
Everywhere.
back to American bread.
Okay.
American bread has preservatives. It has lots of sugar or corn syrup in it. Now, the issue twofold about bread. One is the additives and the sugar. All right. Two is, well, I'll give you threefold. Two is what you're eating it with. What are we eating regular bread with? Right? We're making grilled cheese because we know that's not healthy. Okay. Are you just having a turkey sandwich or are you having a BLT? Right? Like that's not as unhealthy. Three, when it comes to the bread itself and the flour that composes the bread. So you know what enriched flour is? It's flour that has added vitamins. Do you know why we have enriched flour? We have enriched flour because when they take the wheat and they process the wheat to make flour, they remove not just the wheat germ and the wheat shell, they remove actually all of the nutrients from the wheat, so much so that what is left is a fine pulp that literally, legally, by the FDA standards, cannot be sold as food. It's pure carbohydrates, which is basically pure sugar.
Well, it's just complex carbs. It gets broken down into sugars.
Well, it's not very complex of a carbohydrate because
it's not super complex, but it's more complex than like glucose, sucrose, or fructose.
They've ripped all of the nutrients out of it. So legally, they cannot sell this as food. So when you're buying enriched flour, what you are buying is the worst version of wheat flour, meaning it's been stripped of everything and they cannot sell it as an actual food. And then they must enrich it to sell it to you as a food product. So enriched flour is literally the worst flour. What you want to do is you want to buy some version of a whole wheat or a whole grain flour that is minimally processed. And they're out there, but you're not going to buy them in the pound bag. And you can, but not for the same price that you buy that Gold Standard or Pillsbury flour. And unfortunately, the majority of the bread that we eat is like that. It's added sugar, or it's with a grilled cheese or just some other bullshit, or it's just really, really bad flour that makes up that bread. So that's some of the reasons why.
So going back to the baguette in Paris.
All right.
The standard sandwich over there is ham and cheese. I mean, when I say ham, is jambon.
But again, hamon, exactly. Yeah. You're not having ham as
no, not the American ham. It's hamon or jambon in French, and the cheese is Gruyere, not just any cheese, or it could be brie as well. Now, notice that upon demand, they can smear a layer of butter on both sides of the bread. I know you're cringing right now, but that's the way to eat a jambon beurre, which is the name of the sandwich. That is the way to eat it. You have to try it at least one time. Then you can be disgusted. I'm telling you, butter. Butter makes everything. French cuisine has butter everywhere. And yet,
I wasn't aware that the French knew how to cook something without butter.
Yet, when you look at the French people, they have a line. They have a waistline. They're not obese. They're very healthy. I mean, but
the thing is, you're having butter from milk fat, from dairy fat.
Exactly.
Right? And the bread that they're eating, right, with the milk. Well, cheese is actually protein, right? Mm-hmm. It is milk protein. Milk protein. Butter is milk fat. Now, of
cheese
course,
has fat too.
Well, cheese has fat in it, and butter has protein in it, right? But
the ratios are kind of
opposite. The ratios are opposite.
It's not a sandwich made by Monsanto. Put it that way.
But exactly,
the chicken is grown very healthy, cage free. The food there is absolutely every single time I go to France. I'm not kidding you. Every single time I go to France, I have to go at least the first 3 days. I have to go to the bathroom a lot more times to
Because you're
adapt
having
because I have a lot of fibers.
more fibrous food.
Because every single food that I'm eating, it doesn't matter if it's a street food or it doesn't matter what it is, has fiber content that is superior to the U.S.
Well, at least
By
you
the
use it
time,
in European bathrooms.
yes, by the time my body adapts, I know that I evacuated all the toxins, and
because
now
it's not.
There's no such thing as toxins. That's bullshit.
Well, no. I think
Come on.
you're both having two different arguments. One thing, toxins, you're drinking alcohol and having cancer causing shit that's in your body, and
that gets flushed out in real time.
free radicals.
you
Yeah,
mean you don't have
but
toxins?
but
Not like you've got like a storage of toxins in your colon that you need like special things to flush out.
no,
Like,
the
it's
do.
constantly in the process of being eliminated.
the issue though is that when you're in France, you're having food that is much more natural, has a
Mhm.
lot more fiber, not as processed as much. It
Mhm.
goes through you quicker,
Mhm.
right? Which means your body digests less and does
Mhm.
more work, right? Whereas in the US, we have highly processed food, which has a higher chemical content and a much greater content of processed ingredients.
Processed, the hormones are
And
modified, everything.
so, when you start, the issue is when you're trying to label what is a toxin. And James, I think this might be something that you want to chime in on. Well, let's define toxin. Is a toxin sugar? Is a toxin caffeine or nicotine or or is a toxic? How would you define what's toxic to your body?
Well, that's problem one, is there is no definition.
And that's I think kind of what you were just getting at when you were like, Raj.
Well, when people talk about like I'm doing this juice cleanse or anything else, like I'm gonna flush all the toxins, and I'm like, what toxins? Like if you have toxins in your body, for like example, alcohol, like your body works really quickly to get rid of it, and like the toxins that will accumulate in your body are not going to get flushed out with like a green drink juice cleanse. Like if you've got mercury accumulating in your body because you're eating like bad tuna, like a juice cleanse isn't going to fix that problem. If you drank Putin's polonium tea, like a
Well,
juice cleanse isn't fixing that problem.
people were drinking radioactive water for several years. Then.
Right, yeah. So like stuff's either going to accumulate in your body because it doesn't have a way of getting rid of it, and a juice cleanse isn't going to fix that, or it is a toxin and your body knows or your body knows how to get rid of it, and it is actively getting rid of it at all times.
Well, I mean, just think if you drink half a quart of motor oil, right? Like your body is going to have a major reaction. Versus if you drink soda, right? Which people will argue soda is bad for you because of the chemical makeup of the ingredients in soda. However, just for the record, all of the natural ingredients that you make also have a chemical
Exactly.
to them. They all have a
Right,
chemical.
And they
what
are
I'm saying
all
is, like,
harmful. You
there
have
are two
harmful
types of
toxins from
toxins. They're
preservatives.
either the
You
ones
have
that you're
artificial
eating,
dyes. You have additives. You
right,
have
and your
small
body's
amount.
getting rid of that all the time.
But the issue is the issue is its effect on.
Do you know what are the effects of toxins in your body? It could be brain fog. It could be hair loss. It could be fatigue. It could be brittle toenails. Watch your nails. A lot of people don't watch their nails. Brittle toenails is an indication of having toxins. Bad breath. That's your liver. That's your liver oversaturated with things that are trying to eliminate this. Your liver is the garbage disposal.
Yeah, but my
You
point
know,
is,
nausea, weight gain, all that is
yeah. What I'm saying is that, like, doing some kind of cleanse or whatever isn't going to eliminate these toxins in a manner that couldn't be achieved practically any other way.
I can't disagree with that because
Some of the
it would reduce a lot of swelling. It would reduce. It would balance your pH level, which is very important. It would boost your moods. Believe it or not.
Let's say you eat a shitload of processed foods, right? I'm saying that if you stop eating these crappy processed foods and start eating healthier things like salads and unprocessed foods, you will see these same results or better than if you go on one of these stupid juice cleanses.
I agree, but at the same time, people use that because they want to enhance their heart health, the immune
But it
system.
doesn't do that.
It does. It does. When you do the juice cleanse, it does
No, it
improve your
doesn't.
immunity. Absolutely, it does.
Well,
It even lowers your risk of disease. It does.
You can
It
achieve
does.
the exact same thing with like a protein shake and like some vitamins.
Not one protein shake. It's not going to do anything. It's like you're telling me I'm going to work out at the gym for 1 hour in a week and it's going to do marvels. It's not going to happen.
No, it's
No,
if you just
It's going to
change your
give you good conscience and
like
that's
there's
it.
no such thing as a cleanse.
It's consistency. What do you do it consistently on a regular basis? Yes, it will. It will.
There's no
Absolutely.
such thing as a cleanse. Although on that point, I always thought if you've ever seen those ads for like the colon cleanse or whatever, where like they talk about like being able to like flush out your colon or whatever. I like the idea. I wish that I was there in the marketing meeting where you're at some pharmaceutical company. Be like, Johnson, can you tell us about the progress that you've got on this new drug that you've been working on? Well, sir, it's not really great news. So far, the only thing that this pill does is just make you shit violently and uncontrollably. We haven't. It doesn't really do anything else. It just makes you
Well,
relentless. And then they say,
evacuating toxins through natural ways
but
is
yeah, but
part of getting rid
no,
of
but
it. So yeah,
then you've got the guy in marketing saying, "No, we're gonna run with this. We're gonna sell this product. We'll market it as a cleanse."
okay.
So, but I think there's two factors. Okay, what we could be talking about is what's built up in your intestines, right? What's built up in your small intestine and your large intestine, right? Now, an immediate cleanse, a juice cleanse, a high fiber diet immediately is going to eliminate that stuff. However, what's in your blood, what's in your stored fat, there's what's in your brown fat. Some of this stuff is not leaving your body for a decade of good behavior. Okay, it's just there. So a cleanse is a cleanse as much as it can be a cleanse. If you want to cleanse out your intestines, you can just drink. There's a couple of things you can drink.
You know what? If you want to clean out your intestines, the best way to go about doing it is do a colostomy prep.
Well, so yeah, you could do something to clean out your colon, right? It's going to clean you out. Now,
I wouldn't recommend that, by the way. That shit's thoroughly miserable.
Now, a juice cleanse.
You guys know that one of the most available, really readily available way to get rid of toxins without anything whatsoever, it's a bucket of warm water. That's all you need. Now, hear me out. No, you're not shitting. You can extract harmful toxins.
What toxins?
Through your feet. Listen to me. In just 30 minutes treatment, all you have to do is you remove toxins in a very relaxing way. All you have to do is it's like a pedicure. All you have to do is have like your feet in a warm watered basin and wait for 30 minutes. That's it.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Well,
you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe me. This is,
and I won't.
It works.
No, the issue, you're not pulling toxins out of your bloodstream.
What toxins? Define toxin.
You're pulling bacteria that are on your feet. You're pulling it out of your feet, and you're cleaning your feet. And of course,
your body naturally gets rid of the toxin through your feet. You don't know that, but I'm telling you,
you don't know that either.
Well,
I do know that. Trust me, I do know that.
Your body also gets rid of the toxins through your elbows and your knees and your forearms and your upper arm, and your back. It's just it's less difficult.
Do you know one of the ways
of water,
guys? Is there a way that like if I align my chakras differently?
One of the way parents get rid of, heal their kids, especially infants. You should know that, Justin, is by putting a little bit of Bengay on the kids' feet and cover them with socks. Now, socks is very important. You have to cover them with socks throughout the night. And In the daytime, when you take off the socks, you see the color by yourself. The color is kind of dark, and it's not coming from the Bengay. Your body gets naturally rid of your
It's
toxin
from
through your
dead
feet.
skin.
And that's not dense skin. It's an infant. It doesn't have much dense skin like an adult. But I'm just saying, your toxins are
People
evacuated.
shed
Try
skin,
it.
like
Try it tonight. Put some Bengay on your feet, cover it with socks. Go to sleep. You'll wake up energized, and you'll thank me for that. I'm telling you.
what substances make up these so-called toxins?
On this note,
Toxins
guys,
comes from everything. It could be from the air. It could be from pH from the water. It could be anything.
yes, as everyone knows, a pH of 6 is toxic. On that note, we should probably end. Oh, Raj went away.
Oh, that all right. He's
Raj
ahead of us.
coming back with lime juice. Raj was coming back with lime juice to fight the pH. Before we wrap, I'm really curious where Raj went. I see him in a mirror. Oh,
Oh,
2,
film.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
There you go. You see it? You see it?
How much does that weigh?
It's not light.
You see how much is it?
I would imagine that's probably like
That
40 or
has
50
to be
pounds.
in the fridge, my friend.
We've got to get Raj to let us know what is on. We need to let Raj. We got to get him in a position to let us know what is on those film reels.
You're never gonna see it.
Sasha asked, "Are we going to do an episode on abortion?" So
Did we
we've
not?
done them in the past. Maybe it's
could.
time to revisit it because there's been some developments.
There's been a lot of hard developments. I heard there's now
Cheers.
the death penalty in South Carolina for abortion. Is that
Proposed? 21 state senators have proposed it, or like 21 state senators are co-sponsoring the bill.
I think most people would be okay with that if the death sentence was for the unborn baby.
I'm fine with it that way. Yeah, sure.
But Texas thinking about
Well,
that.
I want you to think about this one. We care about life so much that if you abort an unborn child, we will kill you.
So we don't care about life that much. Yeah, death penalty, not jail, but actual death penalty. So
Yeah. This is not my idea.
we
This
care.
is
Yeah, you're
Eric's
right.
idea.
We care about life so much that we will eliminate a life in the defense of another life. On that note, guys, we gotta go. It's late. I want to thank you guys for joining. I want to thank Raj for joining in person.
Yeah, good to have him on live for a change.
And we'll see you guys.
Thank you
next
for
time.
having
Thank
me.
you for joining us in this episode about nothing, which happened to be about cars, bathrooms, and bodily
I'm
toxins.
so curious to see how you're gonna label this episode. I'm waiting.
Adios, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
See you.
Cheers.
This is The Other End. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time.
I like PBR. I just got priced out of it.